Gerard, every week at this time, talking about your family's finances. Look, isn't it exciting that you can actually get out of debt, manage money, and plan for your retirement? Wait, did I say that fast? You're like, Arif, I'm just trying to pay my bills. I know, and for a lot of people, retirement is a big part of that. You know, when they're saying pay your bills, do you know one of the most important bills in this formula is actually your family's future? For a lot of people, they think retirement is just something that comes like one day you wake up and you turn around and you think there's a pension there for you, or Social Security will be what it is, or one of the things that I have seen more and more people today push off is they'll say things like, well, you know, I just don't ever plan on retiring. Crazy. I'm Arif Halaby with Jeff Gerard. You want to retire? Then you need to know the basics. What are some of the basics about your retirement accounts? What are some of the basics about safer options? I'm not saying put all of your money in any one place. Look, if you've listened to us for more than 15 minutes, you'll know that that's what we're saying. But I am saying, if you think all of your money should be at risk, or all of your money should be at a place where no matter what happens to the market, your broker always makes a fee. You realize if you're paying 1 or 2 or 3% in fees, sometimes more, somebody's taking a great vacation, somebody's kids are going to college off of your money, and it just may not be yours. So we're talking about some of the basics of retirement. And believe it or not, some of the things that you can do to have the money that you choose to be safe, that you don't want to lose, that you can't go back and earn, right? How many times have we heard people say, Arif, I've worked so hard for this, I just don't want to lose it.
That's incredible. And it's sad for us on our end in a way, because while we have all these wonderful tools for planning for retirement, the number one thing that drives it is your money. We don't have a magic wand, and trust me, if we did, we would share it with you. There's no other driver behind this concept rather than you paying it. So, Arif, you touched on something very important when you're talking about your family's future, is you have to make that one of your priority expenses. That has to be an expense of you paying yourself first. However you say it, save for retirement, pay yourself first, make saving an expense, whatever you want to call it, it has to come from you. So that's the number one, first and foremost. The second thing is knowing that there's no one trick out there that is a retirement plan. If you think putting money into a single account or a single program, whether it's at work or individually, that's a plan, you know, it's kind of sad that when they say, oh, I have a retirement plan at work. Well, really, that's one account, and that should be part of your overall plan. But don't ever get fooled into thinking that one solution is ever the end-all, be-all answer for your retirement.
Yeah, because a lot of those plans are designed to replace your pension. So it isn't as if you have a pension and a 401k. The 401k or the retirement plan at work is that same plan. So you need to have 2, 3, or 4 sources of retirement income, not just one. Okay, you might have an apartment building. Okay, I plan on, oh, that's great. That's one source of income. You may have Social Security. Well, that's great. Maybe you just missed last week, but if you did, because we're busy working, here's what the current administration, I know all of you, we're shifting demographics in Santa Clarita. There's more Democrats than Republicans. And okay, here's what your side of the aisle, if you will, just said. Sorry, no pay raise for you in Social Security. They manipulated the numbers to tell you and to tell me that there's no inflation. Nothing is more expensive this year than it was last year. So heck,
really,
we're not giving you a pay raise. Zero. That means you're expected to have things like your cell phone bill that just went up, or your cable bill that just went up, or the cost for milk, or goodness, heck, if you ever want some eggs. I don't know if you saw that those have actually kind of doubled in price, if you will, or come pretty darn close to that. And yet the administration, in its financial wisdom, which isn't very much, has made a decision that 0 of you in Social Security are going to get a pay raise. Nothing. 0. Gone. I mean, do you see what happened with health insurance? Folks, this is a really big deal. This isn't little. This is your family's finances. This is going to happen continually now moving forward, because we have nearly $19 trillion in debt. Somebody has to pay for that.
Well, you take a look at, you're talking about the Social Security problem, or one of the problems. Maybe we're thinking that at some point the government's going to make it up on the back end. Okay, great. So they put a freeze on cost of living increases, and I think at one point, if they froze it for 3 years or something like that, and then they made it up with a whopping $40 per month was the average increase in Social Security,
and then they took it back in Medicare.
Right.
So they gave you a pay raise with Social Security, and then because you have to be on Medicare at age 65, they took it right back.
Incredible.
By raising nearly identical what I mean, are you listening? You guys, look, I understand that there's feelings. You've heard me say this. I really feel like, 1 + 1 should be 2, and I really like it, and you don't understand. Let's be human, and let's be compassionate, and let's feel like we should help those people, whoever you want to call, whatever you think is underprivileged for the moment. It doesn't matter what part of the country you're in, whether it's Puerto Ricans in one part of the country or Bosnians, believe it or not, Arabs in another part of the country, African Americans, Hispanics. Oh my gosh, we've got to help everybody. How about if you just say, we're going to get out of the way, and we trust that Americans, you, are going to actually learn what your parents did, which is how to create a business, how to make a living, how to save, how to invest, how to take risk and fail. Believe it or not, if you fail, tough luck. Get up. And so retirement is a part of that because we're taking away the risk, which means we take away the reward. When you take away the chance that people can fail, you also take away the chance that they can win big. And you need to know that because it's part of the formula. How about some of the retirement basics out here? Let's think about this for a second. One of the things that matters to you and your family is understanding what the difference is between an IRA and a 401k. Here's what it looks like. In the IRA world, the I stands for individual. So for a lot of people, they'll come and they'll say, well, I want a joint IRA. Or Jeff, is it okay if we open up an IRA and I put my wife on as a co-owner or a joint? No, you can't.
No. Or better yet, I want my trust to own the IRA.
That's right.
Let's put it in the trust.
You can have an IRA if you are an individual, right? Individual retirement account. So it works like this. The IRA says, as an individual, if you or your spouse makes money every single month or every single year up to what you're putting into your retirement account. So here's what matters. For example, if you're putting money into an account, and that money that you're putting into an account, let's say you put in $5,000 a year, you have to earn at least $5,000 a year. If you don't make at least $5,000, then you can't put in $5,000. If your spouse earns $5,000 and you're a stay-at-home spouse, no problem, you can do that. Then you can still put the money in. But it goes under your name, it's your account, it is not a joint owner. In California, if you divorce, it's part of the formula of who gets what, but that's about it. Other than that, it's your money.
But that's important to know because a lot of folks have stay-at-home spouses, and those are sometimes the people that get left, kind of hung out to dry and left by the wayside. Just know that, this is an important part of this. If you're looking for a place, let's say it's for a tax deduction, and your CPA or your tax planner says, hey, you need to put money into an IRA, and you can only put in $5,500. Well, if you made enough earned income and you have a spouse, legally have a spouse, you should consult with your tax person and say, can I put money in under a spousal IRA or just a regular IRA for them, and see if that works out, because that can be an extra source of tax deductions, and then also it contributes to their retirement.
In each of our cases, you guys, supplementing your retirement account at work with an individual plan is very important because it will give you those extra pieces of a second or a third source of retirement income. Right now, Social Security is slated to run out of money, be gone, by 2033. That's the numbers. It was 2035 when the recession occurred and we didn't get back to work as fast as people thought. And if you were 63, 64, and you were laid off, you were still thinking you were going to work another 4 or 5 years. Well, a lot of folks couldn't get a job. So they said, well, never mind, I'm just going to retire. And they went and pulled their Social Security early. So that affected the whole formula of where these dollars could go and who could get what and when. So instead of 2037, then it went to 2035. Today it's at 2033. Now, it might seem like a long ways away, but I will barely be 65, which means that's about the time that I plan on taking. I'm going to take it early just so I get a few dollars and be like, I'm out of here.
Well, not to mention, disability taking a chunk of that too, and they didn't anticipate so many people becoming disabled. And certainly it's harder to become, to get a federal disability pension, but those are out there too, and that puts pressure on that bucket of dollars, people taking money before they're age 62. So really the idea is not to try to figure this thing out for the government, because clearly they're not taking any suggestions. There's no box where we can put in, put your suggestions in here and we're going to take a serious look at it. Doesn't happen. So the idea is really to not rely too heavily on one part of your retirement retirement, which is in a lot of cases Social Security. That's really the baseline, the foundation from keeping you, off the streets, basically, if that can even do that by the time you take it. But putting some money into a workplace retirement plan or an IRA, those are some of the questions that come up. Do I invest individually, save individually? Do I put some money in my workplace retirement? I think the answer is both, because going back to the beginning, what we said, there's no one place that's going to solve all your retirement problems. And certainly you can have, in most cases, multiple plans, and creating multiple sources of income is really the key here. And that's what we talk about the most, because if one thing like Social Security falters, or the payment goes down, or you don't get a pay increase, look, not going backwards is not always a great thing in a Social Security scenario. Like we talked about, if inflation, if the cost of living goes up and they don't keep up with that on the payment side of things, you might as well be losing money in that account. And you're saying, well, how can that happen? Well, what if you need to take more money out just to sustain your lifestyle? And now you've got a fixed pension at work, maybe a fixed dollar amount coming out of Social Security, and you need extra money. Where do you go? Well, a lot of times those 401ks and IRAs, those are going to be your saving grace there, because you control how much money comes out of those accounts.
And one of the things that works very well when you're putting this together is to think about, how do I inherit money from my spouse? Do I inherit their IRA? Can I get their money and make it mine if they pass away early? We want to cover that in the second half of the show as well. But when you're thinking about your 401ks, a lot of you have old retirement accounts out there, and you're trying to think about, I have a small 401k from this company, and I have a little retirement account from this company, and you might have these various accounts. Well, the key to putting all of this together is to see that often in your retirement account, your individual retirement account, it becomes a receiver for the various other 401ks that are out there. In other words, you can take those accounts and in many cases roll those over and put those into your own controlled individual retirement account away from the old company that you're not there anymore. So why should your retirement account? For a lot of people, they think of that as a possibility. Well, I didn't know I could take it out. I didn't know I could move that from one place and put it into another.
Well, and you have to think about this. What is the real benefit of leaving that 401k behind? Now, you went to work at your job. Now, your dollars aren't sitting in the same building where you worked. At least we hope not. We've seen very few cases of that. But by and large, you have a big company that your employer hired to manage those dollars and to receive those dollars and to hopefully earn some interest. But those dollars are not receiving any new contributions, meaning you don't work there anymore. You can't put money into that account. So you're, number one, not putting new monies in. Number two, your company is not matching anything because, by the way, you're not putting any money in. And then the third part is your company might not be putting anything on the profit sharing side. So any money that they would have given you, that quote unquote free money or that deferred compensation, they're not giving that to you in that program anymore. So you have that coupled with, what type of fees are you paying? Do you like the choices where you can actually direct your money? I mean, look at the types of accounts that you can participate in. Is it all, is it 10 different choices in the same category? You have to think about that. Really, where's your diversification there? So we encourage people to take a look at that, and if you're kind of indifferent to it, use that IRA as a recipient of that 401k. You can roll that over, no taxes, no penalties, and now you control where that money goes. And I like that a lot better because you control the fees as well, and that's a big part of it. And I think a lot of people, Arif, are taking a bath when it comes to those fees because they don't even realize they put money in years ago, and they come to us with these statements and say, this account hasn't, I guess it's done well, the market's up, but why is it that my account is not much more than the money I put in? And then they start scratching their head. We peel back the layers, and what do we usually find?
Well, if you add up 10 years of your account and you'd say, I put in, for example, 100,000, it's gone up and down, I've made money up and down, and maybe today it's $120,000. That's great. 20% gain, 120 is a lot of money. But in 10 years, you've earned 20,000, knowing you've gone up and down. But take a look at the fees. If the fees are just 1%, 1.5%, let's 1.5%, and 10 years have gone by, you've paid $10,000, $12,000, $15,000 in fees, and you've only got a gain, an increase of $20,000. So, in other words, you've worked hard for the money, and then you've gone to your broker and said, we're going to split it 50-50. Right? Anything I make, you get half, I get half. You wouldn't do that. But why is it that we find people's accounts are that way? Do the math. Do it outside of my presence. Get it on the phone. Come to my office. We'll sit down and we call the companies. You can add up the numbers and do it yourself and come up with a pretty darn close number of whether or not you've come out ahead or not. We'll be back in just a minute as we continue with your family's finances. Total Financial Solutions, Safer Money Hour. Arif, Halaby, and Jeff Gerard on AM 1220 KHTS. Yes. Hey, welcome back to the show. Total Financial Solutions, Safer Money Hour. Arif, Halaby, Jeff Gerard. That's him. I'm Arif. Look, we're talking about your family's finances. If you are going to inherit your spouse's IRA, the key component to receiving any retirement account, whether it's a 401k at work, if you work for a nonprofit or a school district, a research facility, hospital, those are called a 403b. Okay. Now they're treated nearly identically, not exactly, but nearly identically that you would think of something like a 401k is. The laws were changed over the last few years to really start making those things look, I don't know, almost synonymous. If it were me and I was, king for a day, if you will, I would make one retirement plan, make the limit so high, and then I'd have an individual plan that says if you work and you want to put money in or don't. Canada has a few things that they do okay. One of those is their plans are called RSPs. They allow you to invest some of your own personal Social Security money. They also allow you to add to it if you want. Now, here's why that's important. The RSP, I think is what it's called, the Retirement Savings Plan, allows you to take some of the money that your employer would put aside and you can invest it in any place. So that is important because if you're going to have some level of gain that's a little bit more than somebody else, wouldn't it be nice to bear that risk? Like, hey, listen, I'm willing to take a chance because I've owned businesses here, I'll do this. But if I lose it, hey, I lose it. They also, because it's similar to a Ponzi scheme like ours is, where they take new investor dollars today and they pay for old investor people that, whose money have been gone for a very long time, but they still owe you money, so they have to pay you. So what do? Well, they do it by adding, in the case of Canada, that only a portion of the dollars can be reinvested. The rest of it goes back into the pot. Now, you're still talking about a group that has the Arctic in the north and us to the south. So their illegal alien problem is not very big. And number two, there aren't a lot of people rushing to go live up in north of the Arctic Circle. San Diego or Houston or Miami are much nicer places to live. And so if you're somebody that's trying to come to a place and get free stuff, we kind of have a little bit better weather. So anyway, so they have better issues. We handle their defense, if you will. They have a military of some sort, but not the same. So what do you do if you're trying to get the best of all the worlds? You're trying to save money. Your spouse passes away along the journey because nobody knows when they're going to go most of the time, right? Unless you're this lady that just wanted the right to, I guess, forgive herself when she kills herself or something with this assisted suicide baloney. And that's really what I think it is, unfortunately. But that being said, most of us don't know when you're going to die. Kind of silly, but so how do you plan for that? You build in safety nets. And part of those safety nets are going to be making sure that if you're going to inherit these dollars, you do the right thing with them under your name. So here's what happens. Your spouse could save a whole lot of money, and let's say he passes away first. You can take those dollars, put them under your name, and they now become your retirement account. The same rules apply as if you're the one that put in the very first dollar going back to the beginning. That's pretty neat. In addition to that, if you are divorced, and some of you will go through that, unfortunately, and there's something called a QDRO, a Qualified Domestic Relations Order, QDRO. The QDRO often will go to a pension plan or a retirement plan, whether it be at work or whatever, and say, divide this whatever percentage. Maybe it's half, maybe it's a third, whatever the number is that the courts decide. And then that now gets transferred out and put in your own name as well. So there's multiple ways that you can add money to your retirement account. One of those is just you going to work. One of those is if your spouse works and puts money in. Another is your spouse passes away and you inherit those dollars. And then the fourth way is if you separate or divorce in a community property state like California, they basically take everything divide it by 2 and you get this and I get that. And if you're willing to give up a few dollars so that you can keep the dog, or I'm willing to give up a few dollars so that I can keep the vase and a little bit more time with the kids, that's where those negotiations and the high price attorneys come in. But overall, if it's a really amicable separation in California, generally it's half and half. Split up, here you go.
Yeah, and a big part of this is to remember that you don't have to leave those dollars where you receive them. Especially, I'm thinking about the Quadro situation, Arif. You know, if your spouse has a retirement plan and they just have some okay, investment choices or savings choices there, and those dollars are split up for the other spouse, they have a chance to now roll this out into their own individual retirement plan in a lot of cases. I would say in most cases. I haven't seen one yet where they haven't been able to roll that out. And that's a good time to maybe even separate completely, get those dollars away from that company, and now you can take control of that. I think that's an important part because some people don't know this, especially the spouse that has not had any investment or saving experience, has not gone out and earned dollars, but maybe they managed the household. Maybe they took monies in, they paid bills, they did what they were supposed to do, paid mortgage, paid property taxes, but wasn't really savvy on the side of saving for the future. And I think that's a lot of times a daunting task to ask someone to take on that's never done that before, especially amidst being faced with a separation, or in this case, divorce. I mean, there are a lot of pieces in there, and then, oh, by the way, now you have to be a money expert.
Today you can get a lot of information and education on the internet. You can earn your PhD, in fact, in some cases. So you can learn the basics of the financial world. Understand where you're receiving your information from, though, that it's going to be skewed a little bit, right? If you come and listen to me or to our office and say, what does Total Financial Solutions believe? We believe in more of a safer money approach. So the things that we say and we do are going to be skewed into more of a safety, less risk, less fee world, right? If you're looking also lower rates of return, you're going to get average returns of 3 to 6%, 3 to 8. You're not going to get home runs, big home runs, if you will. You get your education from some of the stockbroker world and the mortgage banking, not mortgage banking, but the investment banking world. Then you're going to have a perspective that says, oh, if you buy pork bellies, or you buy REITs, or you buy this. And so all of those could be great places to put some of your money. I'm not saying they're not. But just know that as you're beginning to take on a larger responsibility of your own financial literacy, that get 3 or 4 sources. See which one you kind of lean more towards. If you're more of a risky type person, then maybe you want to follow the advice of that trail. If you're a little bit more concerned about safety, then maybe you want to follow that trail. So there's going to be different places to learn. All of it is available, but just don't try to put all your eggs in one basket. I don't care if it's with us or anybody else. You need to have some diversification. And I don't mean with the same place where you lose money when the market goes down, but in more than one place. That's not true diversification. True diversification is when the market goes down, you don't lose all of your money somewhere. All of your money is at risk. That's not, in my opinion, true diversification.
That would be like saying, a healthy, eating alternative is to eat at 3 different fast food places. One
there you go.
Different one at breakfast than you did at lunch or dinner. I mean, they're all kind of fast food. They're all not probably the greatest thing to do over a long period of time. Something else we've seen, when it comes to spousal inheriting of monies, that didn't sound right. A spousal inheritance, or a spouse inheriting some type of money, especially in the divorce side of things, they're going to want to spend that money because by and large they have to go out and now find a job if they haven't. And not in every case, but we've seen a lot of that where they think they have to spend those dollars. You can still defer those dollars from taxes, and I think that's important because some people, and I was just reading an article this morning, on average, a $50,000 distribution, meaning you take the money out of the IRA or out of that retirement plan, and remember, this is all money, but some of it has a conversation with the IRS before you get that check, or maybe even after you get that check. So if you take $50,000 out, you might be left with a $21,000 loss. Now imagine, like Arif said earlier on, I'm going to put some money in, and at the end, I'm going to give you half, and I'm going to take half. Well, that's about the case right there. And I would encourage people to say, look, this money was intended for our future use, and even though we're not going to enter retirement as a couple, this is still part of my future, and I should defer that. And rolling that over into the spousal IRA, I think it's really important that you do that, even a part of it, and not try to spend it down to zero and say, oh, that's his money or that's her money. Because, people can get spiteful, but at the end of the day, we want you to end up with more money in your pocket. So rolling that over to that spousal IRA is probably a good thing to do.
And in a lot of cases, the retirement accounts that you build up will give you those options to defer and continue to defer the interest, meaning you're not paying taxes on it right away. What I want to cover in addition to this in a few minutes here is the ability for you to take the amount of dollars that you go through as you inherit them as a spouse, and to realize you can contribute new money to them. You can go to work, and if you have an old job and you want to add money to this, I don't know if it's the smart thing to do. That's a different conversation, but you have that ability to add to it as you go. That makes the important part of this formula, that you're not just blowing in the wind waiting to reach age 62 or 65. We've already covered Social Security is not giving a pay raise in 2015. Tough luck, no, sorry. As if the cost didn't increase. The mismanagement on the side of the pensions of your pension company or the Social Security pension system, the annuity system that Social Security has set up, the mismanagement of those affects you directly. Who you vote for is directly impacting your state pension or your government pension or your Social Security. Just like if you were a part of a union and you were voting for leadership, the secretary or the treasurer or whatever it might be, it's the same idea. There is an impact. When we come back, I want to cover some of the next steps, which is in your retirement world, can you move money from a taxable account, which is an IRA, and move it over to a Roth IRA? And what's the difference between the two? Can you do some of that conversions? And the answer is yes. When we come back, we'll tell you how. A whole lot of more information on retiring, and that's what Total Financial Solutions is all about. You can go to hometownstation.com, and don't forget you can download the KHTS app on your iPhones and Android devices, and now you can listen to KHTS wherever you are, and you can also access KHTS news, social media, a whole lot more. And the easiest way to do that is to go download the app on iTunes or the App Store or Google Play, wherever you might be, and search KHTS. Total Financial Solutions, that's us. I'm Arif Halaby. We'll be right back.